Welcome to a brand new episode of Sequel Rights, the podcast where we take a look at the franchises that make you go, they made how many of those? And we give each and every sequel a fair trial. My name is Justin Camps, and I'm here with
Elizabeth Helly
and
Tyler Hymanson.
And boy, oh boy, do we have a jam-packed, absolutely stuffed episode for you guys. I think it's the first time ever we've had two guests on the podcast at the same time. Very exciting. We're talking about a brand new movie. Here we go. What? You guys laughing at me?
What? Well, just like forgot about Joseph and Alyssa. Okay.
Oh, that's right. Okay, let me start over.
no, I don't care. It's fine.
No, we're going to leave this all in. Anyways, this week we're talking about a brand new movie, Bill and Ted Face the Music, the end of the trilogy for Bill and Ted, and we've got a couple special guests with us tonight. At the end of the podcast, you will hear a special interview with the music supervisor, Jonathan Leahy, about all the details you want to hear about the soundtrack for the movie. And right now, here to talk about the movie itself, we have a returning guest, Mitch Thompson from Blind Covers. Mitch, thanks for being here.
Hello, Sequel Rights!
Oh, damn, he's got special effects! You guys...
I put together the most visual bit for an entirely audio podcast.
Wow.
For those of you at home,
incredible.
he's got a homemade fog machine and just like going all out here.
It was
for
an
the
epic
podcast.
entrance. There was laser lights.
I fully plan on using that whenever something just spectacular happens throughout the episode.
You're going to run out of fog then, because this episode's going to be fantastic.
Jam-packed.
Jam-packed. We've got 80 guests for the first time ever. Anyways, you guys, as we do every week, Eliz, where can people reach out to us?
I can't follow that.
Yeah, you can.
but-
Yeah, you can.
All right. Email us at sequelrights@gmail.com, or you can find us on social media on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at Sequel Rights.
And please
Encore, do it again.
read the names again. Please
This is great.
rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. 5 stars goes a long way. Seems like it wouldn't mean anything, but apparently it does. So please give us a rating.
It's helpful. Hey, man, we're just trying to match the energy of this movie we just watched, and so far we're doing a great job. So you know what? Why don't we just get right into it?
25 years ago, you played a concert in front of the entire world. 1 month ago, you played in Barstow, California for 40 people, most of whom were there for $2 taco night. Bill and Ted, what have you got to say for yourselves?
Be excellent to each other. And party on, dudes.
You were supposed to unite the world and save reality as we know it.
Bill, we've spent our whole life trying to write the song that will unite the world. Why can't we just go to the future when we have written it?
Whoa! And take it from ourselves.
But isn't that stealing?
How is that stealing if we're stealing it from ourselves, dude?
I had to let that one go long because it's just so good. And we've got Holland Taylor, Sequel Rights alum, just like
That's
you know,
right.
getting the full lead on that trailer there. So fun, so fun.
Yeah, I didn't watch any trailers. I only saw the poster, I think.
Yeah, I think I watched it when it first dropped, but then once we decided we were going to do this podcast, I didn't want to like know all the jokes or anything. So
Okay.
Can we just say how nice it is in this year, 2020, to be talking about a movie that was just released?
yes, that's what I was thinking.
Amazing.
A new we never get to talk about new movies on this podcast. Not never, but it's pretty
Yeah,
rare.
rarely. And this is one of the only new movies this year.
That's right. A top release.
I was genuinely talking, and maybe this can be a discussion for later, but with the dearth of movies coming out, what do you think this movie's chances are at the Oscars this year?
Oh, God.
Oh man.
mean-
Oh, maybe best song.
yeah.
Best song.
I also
That would be
genuinely
amazing.
think it has a shot at best makeup.
Oh
Yeah,
my
There
god.
was
I
some
think it does.
very good makeup in this.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree 100%.
Yeah. I think that's actually a very wise point. I think that we could see it.
The makeup was like so impressive when it didn't like necessarily need to be for the type of movie that it is.
For the bit to be, yeah.
So much of this series, it feels like succeeding on low expectations. Like it kind of hand waves away a bunch of stuff, but like the production design and makeup is always like outstanding.
Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, well, let's get right into it. It's been what, 25 years, and we're back with Bill and Ted, and we get to dive right into where they are now.
I love that it immediately was like sequely fan service things that people like us will appreciate. Like right off the bat, you got Missy and Deacon getting married.
This might be like I think like they peaked with the jokes like in this movie. I'm like, this is probably one of the funniest bits of the entire film. We're right here at the beginning. It is just the fact that she's marrying Deacon. Like, okay, I was not expecting that to come back again.
Me neither.
And it's so.
I didn't know she was going to be in the movie.
Yeah,
like, I had no idea.
And then the
same lady, Amy Stotch. She's now 61 years old. Beck Bennett is 35, which I thought he was older, but no, he's 35. And Bill and Ted are 55, or Keanu and Alex Winter are 55-ish. And the dad, Hal Landon Jr., is 79. So really, she was like, they tried to make it like she was closer to Deacon and Ted's age, but she was actually closer, not that age inappropriate to the dad.
Right. The slow walkthrough of explaining how everyone is their own father now and everything is just so funny.
Which makes dad his own son.
Like in front of everyone at this wedding, and it's just like this slow, awkward, cringy moment that was just
the
so
look
great.
of distaste on Hal Landon Jr.'s face when he says that is just like so amazing.
Yeah.
Some great grumpy acting from Hal Landon.
Yeah.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah. I love that he was back as well. They did a great job bringing back the people that they could.
I mean, this wedding sequence is really funny. We get our first peek into what the Wild Stallions are up to musically. We'll get into a little bit more detail on that later on with the interview. But I find the image of Keanu Reeves playing a trumpet very funny.
Yeah, and the theremin. Come on.
Top 5 funny instruments to have Keanu play for sure.
Certainly.
Let's go through all 5 right now. Bagpipes they got there, theremin they got, trumpet.
Honestly, bagpipes is bottom 5 for me.
Yeah.
I don't like that they're he's playing so lightly with Scottish cultural heritage.
Yeah.
I guess I don't know if we want to say how much we liked this movie or not this far in advance.
Sure.
But
Yeah, you can go for it. Yeah.
I was extremely worried about this movie going in. Like, you played the trailer. The trailer was very light on jokes. And I also remember it dropped like weirdly close to when the movie was originally supposed to come out. So I was really bracing for like, oh, this feels like something that they're kind of dumping.
Mm-hmm.
But and also I'm generally so skeptical of like long after sequels to movies.
Get out of here.
You know? Well, like of the ones that you've covered on this show, what do you think is like, what have you seen are the biggest mistakes that people can make going into sequels like this that are set so long after the original?
We haven't done a ton of them because there hasn't been a lot of things that have new reboots.
One thing that this movie didn't do that we often see is getting rid of everybody.
Yeah.
So behind the camera, below the line, above the line, in front of the camera, all those people. And so, you know, it's good that those people are all here for this.
Mm-hmm. Plus Steven Soderbergh this time.
Yeah. Allegedly. Yeah, I mean, this movie has a lot of producers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which
And
is
I think you
crazy.
see some of that on the screen a little bit.
Oh, really? How so?
I think that this movie has a lot of really awesome ideas that, because it was a Bill and Ted movie, I thought could go in a bunch of crazy different directions. And like, so like the setups are there, and then I think that they weave together in a way that is ultimately satisfying and fun, and I really enjoyed. But I felt like that there was some kernels of some really wacky ideas that I wanted to like see go off the rails a little bit more.
Yeah, and there was a lot of talk about the length of this movie, right? Because we all paid for it on premium rental or buy whatever we did. I bought it because it was only $5 more.
Yeah.
But but it's quite short, right? How many minutes is it?
92 minutes, I think.
Yeah, so that's quite short for our standards of today. But I thought it was good. Like, I didn't feel cheated or anything, but there was definitely like, I would have loved to see like more of the princesses and the daughters and maybe some other things. Like, I probably could have watched 2 more hours of this movie, even if that would have made it wholly dumb.
I totally agree with what you're saying there, but like, I don't think I've ever like walked out of a movie not think like, I was like, that movie was too short, I didn't get my money's worth.
No, but that's how people talk on the internet. I don't get it. But...
Stay off the internet.
Don't give in to them.
No, I'm not.
They don't know anything.
Yeah. So yeah, I wasn't mad, but I was so happy to see a new movie. I swear I probably could have watched 2 extra hours footage.
I mean, yeah, that's true. Yeah, it was just so great to watch something new, and this one definitely had the feeling of like, oh man, like there's a big fandom behind this, and that tons of people are watching it the same weekend. And yeah, I just enjoyed that, and I felt that while I was watching the movie too, and that might have led to some of the feelings I had later on. But yeah.
Yeah,
the like, tears later on. Is that what you said?
Yeah, for real, right?
Because that's what I heard.
Yeah. Not to be like too sappy about it, but I'm super happy to watch it and watch a new movie. But I was thinking back to like when we all went to go see Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again, and I was like, I wish I was seeing this with the guys. It was so funny, like we would be like, you guys would be looking at each other every time they said "face the music."
Yep. Oh man, we would have flipped out about the Missy thing too in theaters. We would have been like,
we would have been elbowing each other. It would have been great.
So I'll say, I guess, did you all like watch this just at home? I assume.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was fortunate enough. A friend of mine has a projection screen out
nice.
in their backyard, and so there were like 6 or 7 of us all like
that's really
wearing
fun.
masks and spaced out.
Oh,
and
cool.
This movie plays really well with a crowd.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
Yeah, I was very fortunate to have that experience because it plays gangbusters. Is this the funniest of the Bill and Ted movies, just in terms of jokes?
I think that like it has the most outright like Keanu Reeves is speaking in a British accent.
Yes. Well,
in a fat suit.
I know. It's funny. It's funny how like I found that in the second movie, the different versions of Bill and Ted that we see in the robots, I found a little bit grating. But here, I think like it worked better for me in this third movie. And like you said, those things are so funny. All the different iterations we see of Bill and Ted, because we know it's them too. I think that's part of it. That like these are actually Bill and Ted in the future.
I mean, a lot of people saw it at drive-ins, right?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of want to go.
That would be.
I would love to see this somewhere outside at like one of those outdoor movie things, or even like at the Hollywood Bowl or something, where everyone could like sing along at the end. That would be so fun.
That would be great. Someday.
Being around humans.
It's not allowed.
Also,
well, go ahead. Oh, I was just going to say, I wanted to just briefly mention about when this movie came out, in the late August of 2020. And if you're listening to this at a later time, hope you're well. It was a really hard week for just everything that's fucking going on.
Yeah.
And to have this movie to watch it just felt like such a gift to have something so kind and nice and funny that's this uncynical thing, which we've talked about, through the rest of all of these other movies. Like, it just has its own brand of sweetness that was felt extra nice.
Did anybody not cry?
I got
I
emotional.
Yeah, I don't know if I full on cried, but I definitely got choked up. Yeah,
I definitely shed a tear.
Yes.
Maybe 3 or 4. I don't know. But
Well, I was in a backyard with a bunch of my friends, so I had to look very tough.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, yeah.
Very cool.
And
I was like, yeah, this movie's all right.
Yeah.
brava. Yeah, golf
and
clap.
you've got the mask on, so all they can see are your eyes.
That's right.
Yeah.
You flipped
I
up
had
the
my
collar of
mask
your
over
leather
my
jacket
eyes.
and then struck a match off your boot. And
Yeah. No, this movie really did feel perfectly pitched for this moment. Not only in just that it is very sincere and kind and nice, but that it's a movie about the joy of like music bringing people together in big groups, and like that the act of making music together is more important than even the music itself. Like,
right.
That was a very, like, when I could feel the movie going in that direction, I was like, oh man, I think they're going to pull this off. Like, I think they're making a really good Bill and Ted movie.
Yeah. It's all about the music. Yeah.
All right, so let's rewind. You heard in the trailer, Holland Taylor is chastising them for not coming up with the song, and they got to do it. So what? Rufus's daughter.
Yeah.
Which I did think, skipping ahead to that, but that there's a great. I thought they did a very good job of incorporating George Carlin into this movie.
Oh yeah, that was very cool. I liked that.
He basically shows up as a hologram, and they have an emotion like they think it's him, but it's just like a museum exhibit, and they just kind of use the footage from the previous movie,
like the first time he shows
worked
up,
really, really well.
Yeah, I thought that was very nice, tasteful.
The
whole future place totally looked like that place in Spain that they use on Westworld.
It was.
Like, I know it was the actual place.
Well,
I thought it was just like CG.
Either that or they shot it with, like, they based it off of that. But yeah, it looked exactly like that.
Yeah.
I was just like, there's so much water in the future.
Yeah. Kevin Costner has gills. Yeah.
Also, Shoshana Bean, noted Elphaba on Broadway, was one of the great ones there with Holland Taylor.
And Win Butler.
As was Win Butler.
Yeah. I thought it was cool that Holland Taylor was in this, since we had just had a few episodes talking about her recently. But yeah, they have until they have to perform the song at 7:17 p.m. at MP 46 that day. And they got to just figure it out, because they've been trying to write, as we've heard, they've been trying to write the song for 25 years, and they haven't figured it out. And how are they going to figure it out in like an hour? The other thing, I loved that, like, the time of how much time they had left kind of was like following along with the movie. Like, the movie's been going for a bit, and the first time they hear about how much time they have left, they're like, it's 77 minutes.
Yeah.
And I think that was about the same amount of time in the movie. Yeah. I thought that was great.
I loved that. Yeah.
I definitely just assumed that MP 46 was some music venue that Justin would know about that I've never heard of.
I know. I was trying to rack my brain, like, MP 46, what would that be? I don't know. Yeah. I couldn't figure it out.
I was also, I was really glad that this movie wasn't afraid to really make them losers at the beginning. Like, it fully developed the stakes for the rest of the movie, but it was just like, oh no, these characters haven't changed at all, and that's really sad. And like, that's a thing. Whereas, like, I feel like a lot of other remakes or reboots or like long after sequels do too much lionizing of the original characters in a way that I feel like hurts the movies themselves.
I kept thinking that the movie had heard my comments on the previous episodes of this podcast because like the issue that their wives are having, I was like, oh my God, because Justin and Tyler were like, oh, their proposal was so sweet and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I didn't like it. The we thing is no good. I don't think any woman would be into this. And lo and behold, that's the major conflict of this film.
Well, I loved how that came about, though, because like they're in couples therapy and it's a funny scene. And then it turns on a dime to being incredibly emotional where, Ted's wife basically said, I feel like if they can't change, I don't want to do this anymore. And even she's surprised by the revelation. And it's this kind of, they have this really sweet, tender moment where they're both just afraid and in love. And I thought it was some very, very good acting on both of their parts and really raised the stakes immediately. Like, oh no, like we fucked up.
This is a great movie just about self-sabotage. Which unfortunately is a topic that I don't know anything about, but from the readings I've done, it feels very accurate.
Us too. Yeah.
Also, while we're on the topic, I'm going to dig into some reading that I've done. This is from Sheila Johnson's 1996 biography entitled Keanu. This was shortly after Bogus Journey. This is a quote from Alex Winter. We even kicked around the idea of doing a third one. Something you could do with those characters being old, just milking their pathetic aspect and looking at what they would do in a world that just beats the hell out of them.
Aww.
So this setup for a movie has basically been around since even before Bogus Journey, which I thought was also instrumental to its success, that it comes from the era of the first two in a way.
Yeah.
Please tell me that you got that book from the library or purchased it just for this.
I literally did. Yes.
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 Shout out to Iliad Books in North Hollywood.
Wow. That's amazing.
Oh yeah. For our listeners at home, he's holding what's called a book. It has, it's a physical book. There's not a screen at all. It's just, it's bound and it's pieces of paper.
I'm holding a book.
The fog.
Yes.
Usually I'm the only one that reads books for our podcast.
Yeah, I can't read.
Oh, I didn't read it. I just
Index, Bill and Ted.
Yeah, I wasn't reading anything. I'm just citing this to make my own things sound smart.
So yeah, we do see that how pathetic they are and the world's been kicking their ass, but they do have two daughters who could not have been better cast for this movie.
Oh my God.
They look the part and they play the part, and we get to see how their dorkiness at the wedding, the aforementioned wedding, as they're the only ones dancing along to Justin, what's the song title?
That they were dancing to? Oh yes, the song title.
Song.
Let me pull it up here. Here we go. You guys ready for this? It's called That Which Binds Us Through Time. The Chemical, Physical, and Biological Nature of Love. An Exploration of the Meaning of Meaning. Part 1.
I thought it was weird that they
Movements
just
1
ripped
through
off a Coheed and Cambria album.
Yes.
Feels like they could have just written their own.
That's so true. I love how like nerdy Billy and Thea are. They're like, they're like, I never felt like that Bill and Ted were like nerdy or anything, but they are just like super music nerds and just like, you know, totally in their heads about stuff. I thought that was great.
And they idolize their dads.
Oh yeah.
I don't think in a bad way, although the grandfather does mention that they're 24, they don't have jobs and they live at home or something like that. But they're really nice people. Everyone mentions throughout the film.
I also like that they didn't try and formulate like a father-daughter, basically the relationship that Bill and Ted had with their dads in the first movie, because
thank God
they weren't like sticks in the mud. They were like there to have fun and be part of the adventure from the get-go. And there wasn't any like contrivance of like, oh, like our daughters hate us and like,
right.
Yeah, but in the third act, they'll go back to their old ways and rock and roll again.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is usually how these go. You're right. That is the typical beats.
Everything
or their daughters would be embarrassed of them.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Which I feel like is a way that they very easily could have gone with this.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like at all those possibilities, they went with like the non-cynical, like positive choice instead of, something that might have been easier. But this is
which is the thing that makes Bill and Ted Bill and Ted.
Exactly.
So, like, this was in the preview as well. Bill and Ted are going throughout time trying to get the song from versions of themselves.
That's right.
So, do we want to go through some of these versions?
Yeah, let's do it. Which one did you guys like the most of the Bill and Ted versions?
I thought the funniest bit, the funniest bit in the movie to me, in the most Bill and Ted movie, is in the British voices timeline. We can talk about that more.
Yes.
Because they basically, the future them, the first time that they come back, they're embarrassed that their past selves see them what they are. So the second time, they have broken into Dave Grohl's house, put on fancy accents, and pretended like that they're the most incredible people in the world. But it's a complete lie. And then there's this chase scene between the two of them where they can't get away from themselves because they remember everything that they did previously.
So great.
And so they're like, we got to do something so that we can't remember, dude. And any other movie would have had them like, we're gonna smoke a bunch of weed, or like we're gonna chug the champagne that's on the table, and then it just cuts to them with buckets on their heads, stumbling around and then falling off a balcony. And I laughed so goddamn hard.
It's so great.
Because it's such their idea. It's just exactly who they are. It's just buckets. They'll never figure that out.
Yeah, and I love that this is like I love that they didn't come back again to the like we're gonna tell ourselves to do stuff in the future. Like it's that same kind of idea but twisted into something different that we haven't seen.
Yeah, they don't fall back too much on just retreading stuff from the first movie. Like any references are just either like fleeting or like the return of certain characters, but it never feels fan servicey.
Yeah.
Which I love because I abhor just cheap fan service.
Well, because that was one of my issues with the second movie, that it just was like too many callbacks.
Yeah.
And this movie does a better job, I think.
This one had the right amount, I think.
Yeah.
And you got Kid Cudi saying station in a way that he really believes station. It didn't feel like fan service.
Yeah.
He's apparently like a time lord or something.
Yeah.
He probably knows all about station.
Exactly.
Yeah. Look, Eliz, I will take my upset with your station erasure up with you off the air, but I hope this was at least passable for you. In your absolute hatred of station.
God,
you were harsh to station on that last episode.
I forgot that even came out already. Yeah, okay, got it. Yes, now I know what you're talking about. I'm like, how did he know? Okay.
He read it in a book, Liz.
I was pretty
see it on your
station.
face.
Yeah.
Station!
That was the one clip I pulled.
Nice.
Kid Cudi going, station!
So here's a theory that I want to run by you guys.
Okay.
Like you've mentioned, Kid Cudi is clearly some sort of advanced. He's advanced beyond explanation in the film. Is Kid Cudi a past version of Station? After this movie, does he leave and evolve on Mars into Station?
Dr.
Or
Manhattan
go on
style.
some sort of time traveling? Because otherwise, him saying Station is never, there's no reason for it.
Yeah.
Station was part of the band. And the band broke up when the thing happened with Death, but we never hear about what happened to Station. So people would know Station.
Yeah,
maybe.
That's true.
They were familiar with Wild Stallions.
Okay, but I want to advance this theory. I want to put it into the ether.
Could be.
Right.
And weirdly, this is something I've been saying about Kid Cudi for years for this movie. So I would like...
He's a Time Lord.
I was like Kevin Costner and JFK when he said that. I'm like, oh my God, it's all coming together.
He's going
back
public
to the left.
Oh, man.
Do we also get what? Prison Bill and Ted?
Prison Bill and Ted.
Prison Bill and Ted was my favorite.
Okay.
They are so obscenely jacked, and that is just so very funny.
Do you like our song? They were like, was it a song? It was a song. It's so funny.
I like that even though they have all the obvious tattoos that you'd think, there was still like San Dimas tattoos.
Yeah.
That they had.
Yeah.
I mean, you gotta have hometown pride.
Yeah.
I just love that.
And the makeup is so good.
Yeah. Oh man, the makeup is amazing. And I love that every time they show up, like the future Bill and Ted are like, like, God damn it, it's these guys again. Like the first time they see him at the Taco Bell, they're like, oh shit, and they try to go hide from them. It's so funny. Oh God. It's great. And then, yeah, we see old man Bill and Ted, which was like very sweet. And this is another one where the makeup was like, wow.
Yeah.
It goes on a long time.
Yeah, because we saw previous old lady makeup on Alex Winter, and this is way better than that.
Yep.
Less sexy, though.
That's true.
In my opinion.
Yeah.
Old lady Alex Winter was a big childhood crush of mine.
Yeah, climb over that cake, Grandma. Yeah.
So the Time Council they do no longer believe in Bill and Ted. They've dispatched an assassin because there is an alternate reading of the prophecy that killing them could also potentially save the world.
Yeah, how is that alternate reading coming about? Like, what? I guess we don't get to hear the exact wording of the prophecy or something, but
yeah.
No, we do. Preston Logan.
Oh, that's true. But
yeah.
how are you reading into it that they could need to be killed?
No, I think it wasn't so much a reading of the prophecy as much as they just thought if we kill these guys, somehow it all gets erased.
Right.
I've had that like late night, like before an exam or like a big project was due. I'm like, I can't figure this out. What if I just try and kill somebody? Like just that last minute rush of panic. Just, I haven't tried murder yet.
So yeah, Holland Taylor and the other great ones are all in on this, whereas Kelly, her name's Kelly, right?
Kelly, yeah.
She's still trying to save them, and so she gives the girls to the time machine to start on their end, trying to help bring musicians that can help the dads with the ultimate song.
Mm-hmm.
So who do we get here? We got Jimi Hendrix.
Jimi Hendrix.
In his rare right-handed playing, in the rare part of his career where he plays right-handed.
Mm-hmm.
It was like 2 weeks where he was trying to
switch it up. Louis Armstrong, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Mozart.
I
love the Mozart moment. That was really funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mozart was okay. I kind of thought maybe he was too close to Beethoven from the first movie, but whatever.
I liked that when they travel back and they're like, Jimi Hendrix is playing his guitar along outside.
Yeah, for sure.
I love that it looked like Mozart was like at first like what the heck is that and mad, but then you could tell like he was like getting into it and like, they're like, oh man, I'm grooving along with this while he's playing.
While he was doing it, he was like, that motherfucker Salieri coming at me again.
God damn it. Discovered a new sound.
Oh my God.
But it's really, I think we talked about in the first movie how it's really cute how all these historical figures are going around and like becoming buddy with each other and communicating with each other even more than they communicate with Bill and Ted in a weird way. And in this time, it's all the music that allows them to just instantly be like, oh, I'm going to trust you and go with you in this time machine, because that's a real nice interpretation of my, whatever. Like, and so, Yeah, because after Mozart, they go and get this like ancient Chinese flute player, who was really cool. I enjoyed seeing a flute player, of course. And then they get a African tribeswoman who is the greatest drummer of all time. From, what, the 1400s or something? Is that what it said?
It was like
I think it was BC. It was BC.
It was definitely
okay.
BC.
Yeah, it was BCE.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It was.
And we do see Jesus in here. Speaking
Jesus
speaking
of
of
the
BC.
Oh, yeah. So throughout, random people are being deposited throughout all of time because the fabric of time and space is falling apart.
Yeah.
Well,
So wibbly wobbly.
And Justin, I just want to correct you. Jesus is in every movie.
That's right.
He's all around, except John Waters' movies.
He's within us.
Not in any of us, but.
It's so true. You're right, man. You're right.
Actually, and also weirdly, Last Temptation of Christ. He missed it.
Anyway, I have another book that I wanted to tell you guys about.
You're joking. Dang it.
Yeah. I have good. Has everybody here heard the good news?
The good book. Oh boy. Oh man. I love the historical figure is popping in and out, and like landmarks and everything hits a high note for me when like Kelly is on the phone with her mom and she's like, oh my God, the pyramids of the Sahara Desert or whatever are just appeared right here, and Queen Elizabeth is looking right at it.
And she's like, yeah, Mom. Yeah. I almost got the feeling from Kristen Shaw's performance that they animated that scene based off what she ad-libbed.
Yeah.
Oh, it could be.
That could be. Oh man, I thought that was really funny.
Yeah, and Kid Cudi, they don't actually go get him. He just kind of appears, which more leads to the fact that maybe he's like a magical wizard of some sort.
Or station.
Yes, because he knew to appear at their house randomly.
That's right.
And then this robot comes and they all get killed. And I think one of my favorite lines was they were like, we have all these historical figures. Well, I guess, Mr. Cuddy, you're not technically an historical figure. And he's like, I am now.
Also, from the robot whose name is escaping me, Dwayne, I believe.
It's Dennis.
They said it so many times. I don't know how you could possibly forget.
Caleb McCoy.
I'm bad with robot faces. Just very great takes each time after he accidentally kills somebody. Of just like the reaction that I have if I like accidentally throw away the wrong like piece of paper. Like, I'm like, oh no, I need to like throw, or like if I accidentally throw my keys in the trash instead of my cup, I just like, blood.
And it's NoHo Hank himself from Barry,
Yes.
Anthony Kerrigan, who is amazing.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
The whole time I was like, "Who is this guy?" I recognized like the mannerisms a little bit, and then seeing in the credits, I was like, yes, no."
It's because he's unrecognizable because they've turned him into this giant Dragon Ball Z anime robot.
Yeah. He's so funny. He kills so many people.
Yeah. So, Mitch, at the risk of stoking your ire once again with how I didn't like Station, I didn't care for Dennis either. I'm sorry, everybody. I know it's a hot take, but I did not like Dennis. I think a lot of it was the design, because when you see him, I thought this was gonna somehow be Death, because why the white like face paint on a white guy? I was just kind of like, what is this? Is it going to turn out that he's Death? Like, I don't know what's happening. And then once, it became obvious that wasn't the case and that he was Dennis and the whole bit and everything, I was just like, I'm not into it. And then every time he came back, I was like, go away. And yeah, I didn't like Dennis. Sorry.
He annoyed the crap out of me. And then like, as he kept coming back, I found it funnier and funnier. And until the end, I thought it was fucking hilarious.
I too thought he was like a little bit annoying, but I ended up liking the performance, and then the jokes around him about, things like, how the hell is a robot even like in hell right now? Like what? How does a robot die? Or like stuff when he's like getting beat up by the inmates at the prison, and he's like, "Help me!" And they're like, "Come on, man, you're a robot, dude. Get over it." Yeah. Like I liked the jokes about him being a robot.
Yes.
I liked the anxious, self-conscious robot. I think that's just I think I just really related to him, and that's why I'm like, yeah, this is how I would feel if I was brought into the world and my only purpose was to travel through time and murder 80s slackers. Like that's like it really brings ironically humanity to the role.
And
I appreciate it.
And wasn't it that Kelly's mom had turned her ex-boyfriend into a robot or something?
Yeah, her ex-husband named it after him.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought it was like she turned the boyfriend into a robot.
No, well, yeah,
I think like no, there was definitely like he was a human. Like it was definitely a RoboCop narrative where like he was like becoming more aware of who he was after he died. Yeah. Like it was like a unaware cyborg situation.
Yeah,
I'd buy that.
I don't know. Despite what I said about Station, I like Station more than Dennis.
I mean, Station is very cute, so
yeah.
I get it.
Fair enough. Well, one thing that I really liked about this movie too is that it kind of does a great job, in my opinion, of like combining the ideas of the first two films. We get a whole section of traveling through time, dealing with historical figures, and then we also get moments of like returning to hell and re-encountering death and bringing him back into the band. And I thought that like it had a good mixture of those things, while also by the end like adding some new ideas. But I liked that it was like they combined those first two movies into this third one.
Yeah.
So we go to hell, like I said.
We do, and there's a very, very long reconciliation / fight / explanation of what happened to Death. And I was glad to see Death again and everything, but I did think maybe this went on a little long.
You said you could watch 2 more hours of this.
I did.
You said that 2 sequences were very long.
Wait a minute.
I did say that I would watch more, but considering it's as long as it is, I would have liked more of other things and not as much of this, but that's okay. William Sadler was one of the many, many, many producers on the film, so makes sense.
It was fun to see him back.
Yeah.
I feel like one of the things I didn't love about that is, again, they tried to call back to the games of him playing like tetherball and hopscotch, and it's like, find another thing for Death to be doing. Yeah. I don't buy that he would be spending all this time still just practicing games.
Yeah, he's like reliving that loss that he had.
I do think that they did hit the sweet spot of just like, these guys would not be mad enough at anybody to like kick them out of a band. Like what could they possibly do? And the fact that he tried to take the name Wild Stallions is just like, and then like the delivery of that, it's like, no, I buy it. Like that's the line. They are Wild Stallions.
We didn't want to.
You tried to take the name Wild Stallions.
Oh, so funny. And the scene when Billy and Thea go in and like butter him up by talking about like the third and fourth B-sides on his album that no one liked. That was so great.
That conversation is this podcast.
Yeah. It's like super nerdy, like, oh man, that hook was like,
it's just like that one thing that everyone else hated. There was that one really cool thing that we all liked about it.
Yeah, exactly. I love that scene. That was a fun moment for them.
Yeah, and so they make their way back to the current time.
Out of hell.
Yes. Yeah. And what, they just appear on the freeway? Is that how it happens?
They just appear on the freeway and everyone's freaking out because the sky is opening and everything's going crazy.
Yes. And it turns out that MP46 is a mile marker where the 210 meets the 57 in San Dimas. Raging Waters, like I told you in the first episode. That is exactly where this scene takes place. And I was like, oh my God, it's literally where the freeway. I have driven that interchange many times. You on your way to Vegas for sure, and so it was there, and you get some nice Circle K signage right off the side of the road,
which I did appreciate.
Yes.
No, yeah. When you drive that stretch of the freeway, first you think Raging Waters, then you think Bill and Ted.
Yeah, and we get a giant Pepsi truck and a giant Guitar Center truck.
Yeah,
I mean the ultimate hero of the movie is Guitar Center.
Yeah.
In the end,
there when you need them.
That's right.
This whole sequence was a better musical than La La Land.
Oh!
Sorry.
Jesus.
I had to do it.
Terrible. Oh God.
Justin, can you mark the time for the Boom Goes the Dynamite submission?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I should have.
Yeah.
I've been really lax on this button.
I know.
Yeah.
Oh God, don't choke on it.
There's a lot of smoke in here. That was real.
Oh God.
You just found a new way to vape.
So the princesses are here still. They're still married to them, Joanna and Elizabeth. It's new actresses now. And I looked it up, and these actresses are 40 and 41, which, if you're 55 and your wife's 40, okay, if you met when you were older, but these people met when Bill and Ted were 18, meaning that these girls would have been, 3 years old? And I know they traveled through time and everything, but I don't know.
Well, they clearly weren't 3 in the movie that we saw. So Excellent
look,
Adventure.
They were in medieval England, and 3 years in medieval England really put some road miles on.
Yeah, at that point you were already 50.
Expected to get married.
Yeah.
But I did think it was nice and interesting. I don't, the credits. I don't know if you guys noticed at the very end in the thank yous, they did thank all 4 original princess actresses from both films. They thanked the 2 station guys. And they thanked the good robot us's, the 2 dancers that I talked about last week. So, I guess they were kind of sorry we couldn't bring you back.
Didn't have a good way to do it.
Which is nice. Yeah. But I would have liked to see some more age appropriate princesses for the guys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Those actresses are both great, though. I love them. They're very
I also feel like they were given very little to do, which I think you've already mentioned, but it's they're just kind of reduced to they fully set up a side plot for them that they're gonna travel through time and see all the other better lives they could have, and it feels like they just cut out an entire subplot with them.
Yeah. They go on their own separate movie basically that we just don't see.
Yeah, I mean that kind of gets into the things that I was talking about earlier of intriguing ideas that don't feel like they get paid off. That's certainly one of them. We do see their older selves in the phone booth from time to time, and at some point it seems like there's going to be some deception there in terms of who that is or what they're being shown, and that kind of is not, at some point I was oh, is it the older Bill and Ted going through and messing up their lives because they can't have them, no one can, or is it the daughters playing them up and actually showing them, no, your dads are awesome, our dads are awesome, and doing that. I was no, but it was just their older selves, and we just didn't see what they did because it wasn't all that important. It's okay, but I would have liked to see a little bit more of that. And I also thought, the very, very early on when they first read the prophecy out, it's oh yeah, Preston Logan. It's okay, well, it's the daughters.
Yeah,
that's telegraphed immediately.
Yeah.
And so I thought that there would be something a little. I didn't have to be super clever or anything like that, but some sort of twist on that. And it felt like that there was elements to that type of story. Even when we saw the dad fall down into hell and we saw William Sadler as Death, I thought oh man, it's going to be the dad in hell B plot that's going to be really exciting. And it's just nope, we just showed him early on, so you didn't don't worry, he's coming.
Yeah.
Okay. So it would be wrong to say I was disappointed by the movie because I was not. But I did see the foundations of a more interesting movie within this movie.
Well, it's a little bit confusing too because you start getting into timelines, and I'm not a scientist by any means, like not even close to Kid Cudi's greatness or anything, but like it seems like Bill and Ted time travel is just one timeline so far. And then what the princesses do is described almost like as more of a Christmas Carol situation where they're saying alternate timelines, but we don't actually see them do that. What they do is continue to go in the same timeline at different intervals, which is the same as what Bill and Ted are doing, and they're close behind. But it's all one timeline, but what changes the timeline is the big incident, that we see here, so that they don't go into that timeline. And then Kid Cudi talks about how every time, so I just don't know, like, do you know what I'm saying?
I don't need coherent time travel from my Bill and Ted.
Like, whatever.
No, I know, but to go into the princesses thing more, I'm saying, like, for them to see how our lives could have been without Bill and Ted, it opens up like another
except that we see them in the same places that Bill and Ted are traveling multiple times. So it's we see them both at the prison. And,
but when they're old, Keanu does say that there are multiple timelines. Yeah, he just says that flat out. Well, and that was like the wisdom that's imparted upon them because they didn't realize that there was multiple timelines until that point.
And we see that at the end in spectacular fashion. Yeah.
Bill and Ted's time travel rules operate by the whatever is best for the script at that moment.
Which is totally fine.
Sans is the Avengers.
It's totally fine. Whatever. Time travel's not real, so,
Yeah.
Go for it.
Says you.
Yet. Yeah.
Let's just go, Justin. No.
Oh, shit.
Kid Station Cudi. Let's go find him.
It's a post-it that says time travel is real. Told ya. Signed Elis,
P.S. Wild Stallions.
No, wait, there's more on this post-it note. It says real steel. Time travel is real steel.
Real steel. No.
Okay, so like what else? The big musical number happens.
Yes.
And the song you will hear about extensively in this interview. But what do we want to say about it?
I mean, it's kind of like a beautiful moment. You've seen the the daughters, Billy and Thea, gathering these historic musicians, and the whole time you're like, what are they going to do? Like, clearly they're part of the band. And it turns out that, like, they're the only ones that can kind of bring these people together, because when they all try to play at the same time, it's garbage, but they're going to bring people in one at a time using their own, music knowledge and everything they know to bring them in one at a time and kind of build the song up. And I really enjoyed that, like, build of the song where we get each person coming in and then eventually Bill and Ted coming in to do their guitar solo. And it's really a great, like, rousing moment. And just
it felt like a Song Exploder episode.
Yeah.
Like just going instrument by instrument, like
exactly
piece by piece, building it up.
I really like the scene before, all this happens where, they have the realization that, oh no, it's our daughters that are going to do this. And the daughters like, no, like they're terrified. Like, we can't do this. All we do is just mess around, do our, like fuck around, listen to stuff, pick through stuff we like. And then it's, their father is basically just saying that's all anything is. Yep. Like, that's like, you are more than qualified. Like, you already have everything that you need. Like, just go make stuff. And it's like, that's such a powerful message and such a simple message that I don't think actually makes it into a lot of movies.
Yeah, the movie felt very much like an attack on perfectionism, like the sort of petrifying aspect of perfectionism, where like you never end up making anything because you're so worried about it being the right thing.
Well, much like your self-sabotage, I know nothing about that. So exactly. I'd love to hear more about it.
and also how, like, a lot of times you can defeat perfectionism by collaborating with people, like finding other talented people and just sort of sharing your talent, rather than like Bill and Ted thinking that it had to be, it's just them. They're the only ones who can save the world. but especially like working in the film industry, you find that like, oh no, like good stuff comes from a lot of people working together, and it's never just the one or like very few creative people at the top.
Oh yeah. Definitely.
There was a really wonderful moment of that same thing. I don't know if Justin and I were lucky enough to go to, Nick Cave did this amazing thing at the Walt Disney Concert Hall, where he just kind of took questions from the crowd and played a couple songs or whatever it was. And, you know, he gave this beautiful monologue about, that was basically saying this exact thing, is that like, he can't do it with everybody else. You know, he can jot some tunes down on a piano or play a few chords, but like, he has to bring everybody else together. It's all about his collaborations. It's everything there. And like, that's what you need to make things. And if that's what you need to bring out whatever your vision is, then go ahead and do that. And it was like giving the permission, just like this movie does as well.
Yeah. I feel like very few movies about creativity get like the creative spirit really right.
Mm-hmm.
Of just like what I like about this movie is that it puts a lot more emphasis on the act of creating things than the actual thing itself.
Mm-hmm.
Or like a lot of other movies, it's like, oh no, it's this great artwork, this like great finished product. Whereas this movie, it's like, no, like what makes music special is that you're making it. Like that you're creating something and that you're like, it's this pure expression of like joy or sadness. That yes,
yeah, and ultimately that everyone in the entire world was doing it together with them.
Yeah, I'll take that over like the crowd shot, like, you know, like you said, other movies of the finished product. It's like just crowds of like, just like extras rocking out, which is always terrible, or like people with their mouth agape or whatever it is. And just I will take, you know, a bunch of people in old timey clothes playing the glockenspiel over that any day.
Yeah. And by its very nature, it feels so much more joyous than any shots of like people just enjoying this are, because like they are having this same like outburst of exuberance. Like it kind of reminds me of like the end of Stop Making Sense, where like you haven't seen the audience for the whole time, and like people aren't just like in awe, they're just like dancing, and like sound guys are high-fiving each other, and like it focuses more on their participation in this than just their appreciation and admiration of it, which I think all good art does.
And it also kind of self-defeats the chosen one narrative.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, it's like, oh, you guys are gonna be amazing. Like, it's gonna be, you know, you only you can do this thing. And it's like, no, prophecy was wrong.
Yeah,
it was wrong. It was wrong multiple times.
Yeah.
Well,
not only was it not us. Yeah.
Yeah.
The prophecy was right. They just misread it.
Well, yeah. Our understanding of it was flawed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which is how that's how chosen ones get made. Of just like everyone believes, like only you can do this. It's like if it's a prophecy, it's gonna happen. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, but yeah, this whole thing is just so beautiful, and like the you know the shock and like the awe that Bill and Ted have, like when they come out and they see they come back from having traveled through time a million different places in the multiverse and given everyone instruments, and they come back and see that what their daughters have done, and then their daughters are there like, the song needs one more thing. Like, you guys got to come play.
Dads!
Yeah. And then they get to, like, rock out, and there's all these cool effects of, like, you know, the universe getting fixed and all these, like, you know,
and it has some 2D hand-drawn on 80s style effects on the guitar playing, which I very much appreciated. And their solo is most triumphant.
Oh, yeah. And the song is just so positive sounding that everyone everywhere is having a great time. And yeah, this is the part where, you know, you start to get like overwhelmed. Everyone was talking about like their feelings at the end of the movie. I feel like this is where you start to get overwhelmed. And then when we get into the end credits too, like that was a whole nother moment. Cause the movie kind of just ends like, oh, they fixed it.
Yeah, it's very abrupt.
Boom, done.
Not in a bad way. But.
Yeah, no. I mean, there kind of wasn't much else to say, I guess. Like, they did the thing. And then we go right into the end credits, which was also lovely, I thought.
Mm.
If
Very
you guys,
cute.
I don't know if you guys want to talk about that already, but
Yeah,
it was like a contest or something, right?
Yeah, there was a whole campaign about like send in your footage rocking out to this specific song. I think there was like a clip that the people had to, air guitar to or whatever, and you might get included in the end credits. And yeah, so it's like this montage of all these real life Bill and Ted fans just having a great time, and it just like, I don't know. I was moved by seeing all the positivity and just like everyone just enjoying life and being happy out in the world, And it was just like, I miss this.
And Guillermo from Jimmy Kimmel.
Yeah, and I think Weird Al was in there.
Weird Al.
Yeah, Weird Al. Some surprise cameos, yeah.
Yeah.
Just so fun. I don't know. What a positive movie for the moment.
Yeah, we already joked around about bringing a tear to your eye or whatever, but yeah, by the end of the movie I was just like, oh man, everyone's like so happy and nice to each other and like,
together
getting along, like, wow, how cool.
Right. And it's like, it doesn't matter what the song is, it just matters that we're doing it together. And it's like,
I mean, like,
yeah.
I wish they hadn't just come out and said like the movie really like just ends with them saying, and the moral of the story is it's nice that we made music together. It's like, yeah, no, we got it. Like,
yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
But
yeah,
I'm interested. What do you guys think the best last entry of a series you've ever done is?
Oh, interesting.
I would love a ranking of just that. Because that, like, especially with a lot of these series, there is, you might say, a decay in quality as things go on.
I don't know if there's ever one that we've done that felt like that the last one was actually the end of, I guess I can think of one, but it was certainly the worst one. That was the end of a continuing story, because a lot of the franchises that we do, by the time they're getting to the last entry, they barely resemble what they started out as. There's nothing. Yeah.
And I think one other thing too is that you may think it's over, but is any series ever really over?
Yeah.
Like, can you really say for sure there's never going to be another Bill and Ted? No, you cannot. So we always say like, this is the last movie for now.
Yeah.
So.
If you mean go ahead.
I'm going to speak for the fans right now and express my displeasure that you haven't done an episode on the animated series.
Yeah.
So, I mean, look, you did Poltergeist, the Poltergeist
Legacy.
series. You did Poltergeist Legacy.
That's true.
I think canonically you have to do the animated series.
We could come back to it, I think. Yeah.
I think we probably should.
Wasn't that on Fox Kids or something? Yeah. Back in the day.
Oh, then we got to do the Spy Kids one too.
Oh God.
Yeah, there's a lot of series if we go. Maybe we will someday.
And you'll also have to do the series of Verizon Mobisodes based on Jingle All the Way.
That'll be on the Patreon,
Oh man. Yeah, I think it's funny. I just was recalling now, like, back to your first question about like what sequel that we've talked about that has come back after a long absence was really good. And then also if you categorize the word like last as like the most recent sequel that was good, I do think that Bad Boys for Life kind of covers that. I think I think that did a great job of coming back after several years off, and also being like the last movie in the franchise.
Oh, they're already making another one.
I know. I'm just saying, as of right now, there isn't another one. So
it's interesting because that's another series that was very early on in the career of a massive movie star that they have essentially retained creative control over. That is also made with another actor that they're really good friends with.
Yeah.
So
a lot of
maybe that's the secret to reboots.
Yeah. It might be. And the worst last entry of the same type of genre that was more recent is Rambo.
That's right. Why didn't that same formula work for Dumb and Dumber 2? Okay.
Oh God.
We haven't done that yet.
Who's to say that this is going to be the last Rambo?
That's true.
You've seen what happens when people count Rambo out, and you don't want to be on that side of the equation.
It does have the word "last" in the title.
That's right. Hey, you never know. You never know. Oh man. Well, you guys want to get to a rating on this?
Sure. How many theremin solos would you give Bill and Ted Face the Music?
Who wants to go first?
You.
Me? I'll go.
I'll go ahead, Justin.
Okay, I would give it. I don't want to do theremin solos. I want to have 8 theremins playing together as a theremin choir. Okay, I want to hear harmonies on theremin. It's going to be so complex and intense. I love it. Yeah, I'm going to give it 8. I thought that I didn't enjoy the second one quite as much, and so I wasn't sure what to expect with this new one. But it ended up just being like, I feel like really true to the series. And you can tell that it's just made like with a lot of love, and it took them a long time to get here. And then what the end product is so positive and fun. And, we keep saying it a million times because it's like the right moment for this movie, because it's like, we're just like every day is this endless, awful shit. And just to see something so much fun, and it's music. Really, I love music. If this movie makes any kid who might watch it or somebody like get into music or find a new appreciation of music, that would just be awesome. And I think that this movie has that potential for people. And it just really made me feel good.
Yeah, I'm gonna also give it 8 theremins or theremin solos, either way. 8 theremins, each getting their own solo.
There you go.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's kind of easy to calculate it. It's like -1 for the robot, -1 for lack of female character development. Other than that, I loved it. I was so happy to watch a new movie, and just, I'm a pretty negative person. So if you can win me over with a positive message where I'm not like, lame, then I take off my hat for you. I really enjoyed it.
I too, I'm going to give it 8 theremins a playing. I do think that that my only critique is that I think that there is a 10 theremin movie in there somewhere. And I'm bummed that I didn't get to see that version. But that being said, I was very happy with what I got, and really appreciate how they've been able to curate the tone of these movies, to preserve their friendship, and to preserve the innocence of those lovable idiots from St. Demas, even in the barren hellscape of 2020.
I'm going to give this movie the same rating as my 10th birthday party, 9 theremins. Man, this movie was just really nice. And maybe it's because of lowered expectations that I was really reticent to like get excited for this movie. But I think it just does everything that you can hope for in a movie like this, that is dealing with subject matter that people are so reverent about, that so often you see people make the mistake of like, oh, the movie has to be just as reverent of these characters as the audience is or as the fans are. But that very rarely makes for a good movie. And with this movie, it felt like they were concerned with making a good movie first, and then making a Bill and Ted, like a tribute to Bill and Ted second. And I just laughed a lot. I was really very hard laughing through a lot of this movie, and that's very good.
Yeah.
I was really trying to bring it at home and say something really profound at the end, but that is good.
I'm just really bummed that you got to watch it with at least a small crowd. I think that this movie will play infinitely better the more people you could watch it with.
I gotta say, don't sleep on watching this movie with other people. It's great. if you can, safely.
Be careful.
Safely. Some of us can't.
You know what? Find the the most crowded mall you can and watch this movie on your phone.
Tyler, did you watch the credits?
I did.
All of them?
Yes.
Great list of names.
Yeah, it was a great list of names. There was a great solo at the end. It made me kind of sad.
Oh, yeah. I actually thought that they were going to die.
I thought so too.
I was waiting for them to die, honestly.
Yeah, totally. And also, I think we should give a shout out to Jillian Bell's lawyers, who somehow got her the third "and" in the credits for playing that therapist.
That's right.
Yeah, they were really free with the producer credits and the "and" credit blocks. Like
it's and Kid Cudi and William Sadler and Jillian Bell. I was like, okay, sure.
I do like when she runs out, just like, nope. After like one of the historical figures shows up in her, she's like, no.
Anyways, so that's pretty much it for us. We want to hear your thoughts on the movie and what we should do next.
That's right.
You can email us at sequelrights@gmail.com or find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at Sequel Rights. Mitch, is there anywhere people can follow your work?
You can. I'm on Twitter, rwiggum. I think I'm also that on Letterboxd. I'm looking for more people to follow me on Letterboxd, so that would be great. And then I do a show on YouTube that is on COVID hiatus. But if you like watching the joy of people making music together, maybe check out Blind Covers.
Awesome.
Great tie-in. Tyler.
Oh, and please send Apple 5 theremins in our honor so that they know that you like our podcast. 5 theremins much. Or just give them stars if that's easier, if the shipping's too much.
That's right. Well, Mitch, thanks for being here, man. It's so great to have you.
An absolute pleasure to talk to any other humans.
Yeah. Likewise.
You'll do.
But especially you guys.
That's right. Okay, well, you know what? We still have to yet to announce what we're doing next week. But before we get to that, we're going to come back after you guys hear this amazing interview from Jonathan Leahy, the music supervisor on Bill and Ted Face the Music. Check this out right now.
Oh, hold on. Do you want to do that again and I'll give you some smoke for it real quick?
Sure. All right, we're here with music supervisor Jonathan Leahy, who has worked on TV shows like Girls and Good Girls, and as well as the upcoming and now released Bill and Ted Face the Music. Jonathan Leahy, thanks for being here with us tonight.
It is good to be with y'all.
Man, we're so excited to have you on the podcast to talk about Face the Music, the third of the trilogy of Bill and Ted series. Now, I'm curious what your history is with the series and how did you end up working on Face the Music?
My history with the series is that I was 11 years old when the first movie came out. So that very, very specifically dates me. I'm in the 40 plus demo for this film. I'm in this franchise's sweet spot. I am a dude who grew up playing guitar, playing in band, playing guitar, being a math and physics nerd, having delusions of grandeur. And this movie, the first one, Excellent Adventure, came out in 1989 when I was 11 years old. I almost certainly did not see it in theaters. I wish I could tell you some amazing story about the first time I watched it. I don't recall. But it was almost certainly watched on VHS at a friend's house with my parents not knowing that I was watching a PG-13 movie. But I love the first movie. It's funny. My relationship with the second movie is I watched the first movie a million times, like lots of people. I probably only watched the second movie once when it came out, or close to it, when I was at that point. I guess I was 13. And maybe it's just because they didn't run it as much on cable, or I don't know. I just didn't watch the second one as much. But I remembered it in my brain. It was like, okay, that's the weird one. That's the dark one. That's the Back to the Future 2 type thing. And it wasn't until I got called in for a meeting on on Bill and Ted 3, it wasn't until that I knew I was going to be meeting on the film. I was like, I should go back and watch both films. Like I need to like brush up. So I went back and I watched 1 and 2, and I was much more struck. I mean, 1 was exactly the way I remembered it. It's brilliant. It's amazing. It's funny. It's completely unique, from the characters to the soundtrack to everything. I mean, I couldn't believe how much I loved George Carlin all over again. But then I watched 2, and I was just like, what on earth is this film? It's weirder and darker than I remember it. And I already thought it was weird. But it's also, I think the first, the first act, the first 20 minutes of the movie you're like, man, what is going on? Like this is crazy. And then at some point, like halfway through the movie, I'm talking about my most recent, my revisit last year, like halfway through the movie, you're like, this is so awesome. I think this might, in some ways, this is more interesting than the first film. It's super daring. It's super dark. The art direction when they go into hell, the production design is so Tim Burton-y, Beetlejuice-y, wonderfully weird, and a mixture of highbrow and lowbrow, and I don't know, and then of course the playing games with death is 100 times funnier. I did not properly commit that sequence to memory, because upon rewatching it, the games with death are just amazing. William Sadler's great. The guys are great. That set they created with the crazy blue lighting and it's just awesome. And then heaven is the wackiest set design. I mean, it's just so wacky and out there, and like you can't tell when they ran out of money, but you can tell that at some point they ran out of money. And then obviously Station speaks for itself. Battle of the Bands, the song choice, that's a weird song choice. I mean, that's a song from the 70s. It's a cover of a cover of a cover from the 70s. But it's great. I mean, it's great. I also had forgotten how genuinely great God Gave Rock and Roll to You is as a song to this day. I'd also forgotten how awesome Steve Vai's harmonized guitar intro to the song is. I had also forgotten about the Reaper rap. I don't know. I just forgotten about so much. So this is a really long-winded way of saying watching the second film for the second time was really eye-opening, and it made me realize probably the most pertinent way it applies to the third movie is it made me realize that the first movie was its own thing. The second movie was its own thing. And it was okay if we made the third movie its own thing. That's really what rewatching the first two films did for me. And on like a really, really specific music, in the music department world, this guitar player named Stevie Salas played the air shredding and did Rufus's guitar part in the first film. And then Steve Vai did the second film. And it was like a non-repetition. It's like we can do one thing in the first film, another thing in the second film. And I was like, okay, so it can be a different person every film. I know that lots of fans I know everyone's going to say, why didn't you get Steve Vai to do it again? I know that. That's fine. That's a perfectly reasonable complaint. But I was like, this is a new film. It's 30 years later. We're allowed to get a new shredder. And Tosin Abasi is very much a 21st century shredder. If you don't know him or his band Animals as Leaders, highly recommend checking them out. But in the guitar nerd community, Tosin Abasi is the closest thing we have to a Steve Vai of 2020. So that was already where my head was at. And then I saw a YouTube video of Tosin Abasi playing with Steve Vai, and Steve Vai brings him on stage saying, I knew that one day there would be a new version of me, and that new version of me is this man right here, Tosin Abasi. And that's how he brings him on stage. And once I saw that video, I was like, all right, well, I feel like I've just gotten permission from the man himself, and it was all meant to be, and certainly we're going to make guitar nerds happy. So anyways, Tosin Abasi, he does all our air shredding. And then I actually had Tosin and his bandmate Javier Reyes in Animals as Leaders come in and do additional overdubs for the song that saves the universe, the version that appears on the soundtrack. There are no artists that recur from one soundtrack to the next. It's one Excellent Adventure is one soundtrack with one group of artists, and it leans much more towards pop rock, kind of in like a Def Leppard or even a U2 level, like kind of. There's a lot of emotion. It's like a really sweet soundtrack. Excellent Adventure soundtrack is very sweet. The two soundtracks are they're great for many reasons, but one of the reasons I love them is they're so reflective of the movies that they were made for. Excellent Adventure soundtrack is sweet. It's thoughtful. It's really approachable and really, really fun, and mostly comprised of artists that you haven't heard of or you know from other bands they might play in. And some of the projects, I believe, are just kind of thrown together studio musicians who made a custom track for the film. But then the second movie, it gets darker, it gets weirder, it gets edgier. It's like Faith No More and Primus and obviously Megadeth. So it's like, it's bigger. It feels like, oh, I recognize these band names. All those bands have aged incredibly well. You know, the classic era of Megadeth among metal fans has aged really well. Faith No More has gone from little known band to cult status, aged incredibly well. Primus is Primus, like will forever be a iconoclastic band. And then Steve Vai is a living legend, and having him be the shredder and do some of the incidental music and the Reaper song, just amazing. Whatever. Those two soundtracks are amazing, perfect. I wouldn't change a thing, and they're perfect for the movies that they were made for.
Yeah, why don't we talk about the soundtrack for Face the Music? I mean, it's got artists like Weezer, Cold War Kids, Lamb of God, amongst many others on there. Was there a particular artist that you were like super excited to get to work with for this movie?
I mean, Mastodon was at the top of my wish list. I think like they called me about the movie and I start making my wish list, and Mastodon is at the top of it. So I was really excited about them. I mean, let's face it, like all of these artists are somewhere on my wish list. It so happened that Mastodon just like really, after reading the script and after watching the first two films again, something about it, I was just like, you know who would be perfect for this? Mastodon would be perfect for this. I don't know. It's just like a sweet spot. Again, they're living legends, and they felt like the perfect next step update of Bogus Journey. Lamb of God, likewise, metal legends. I will say this with those two artists in particular, and poking around the corners of the internet and looking at how fans felt about the franchise, I felt a huge pressure to get the metal component of the soundtrack right. Like, we could update it, we could change things, we could make it different and contemporary, but like we couldn't leave behind metal. Like I really felt strongly that if we walked away from that, we would be doing a disservice to fans, and we wouldn't be having as much fun as we could. So those two artists in particular obviously were attempt to get the metal right. And I mean, when I first read the script page, I can tell you what scene it is, because as you know, Justin, I have 1,000 folders labeled Scene 91.
Yep.
Scene 91, SWAT van escapes from hell.
Yes.
So you can imagine, I mean, it doesn't take a genius. You read a script page that says, all of the characters pile in the back of the SWAT van. Death gets in the passenger seat and slams down his sickle and says, "Let's rock." You're like, okay, I'm pretty sure that we're going to put a song right there.
Yeah.
So that was an early spot where I was like, okay, we have to go all out in that spot. And then, we got in touch with the band. The band was into it. I think we maybe considered 2 songs. The track that you hear in the film worked better. It's it's a great song. How do you all feel about language? Can I say badass on this podcast?
Oh, for sure.
Absolutely.
Okay. I mean, that song rips. It's like, it's tough and mean and fast, but it's also melodic. And I love that chorus, that the big, huge, we've got to get out of here. I mean, could you write, you might say it's too on the nose, but I mean, it's like to have them screaming, we got to get out of here over that riff while the SWAT band blasts up from hell. That's a chef's
perfect.
Kiss.
Yeah.
Music supervision moment for me.
It's perfect.
And then, Lamb of God, also likewise, we found out that they wanted to be involved, and we were like, we would love to have you. Let's do this. And we had that scene, the prison scene. Are we doing all spoilers? No spoilers? All spoilers. So we had that scene where the guys, the dystopian future prison Bill and Ted, all worked out with those amazing tattoos. They were beating up on Anthony Kerrigan's robot, who we later learn is named Dennis Caleb McCoy. They're beating up on him, and we had temp scored that scene, and it just wasn't like, they're all like playfully hitting him. It's not meant to be violent. It's meant to be, as funny as you can make a prison yard full of people beating up a killer robot. So we tried a few different things there, and then we were like, you know what? Like, maybe it would be funnier if like we just went as hard as humanly possible with the gnarliest piece of metal we can find. And I mean, if that's what you're looking for, you should probably call Lamb of God.
Yep.
So we got that Lamb of God piece, and I mean, it just crushes. The moment we put it in there and we had the music editor cut it, we had him cut it 100 different ways. We were just like, okay, that's it. Now it has the energy, and it's funny, and it just feels, I don't know, it's just like the right mixture of menacing and tough and violent, but it still feels fun. So I don't know, it did the tone thing that we needed it to do. And the instrumental has these great parts where the band goes away and it's just a little little solo guitar riff, and those spaces gave us room to carve out space for the dialogue between Bill and Ted and the princesses. So Justin, as you know, putting stuff in film and TV, like you need those little moments where a song gets quiet for a minute so that it can weave through the scene, and that's what we got from the song. But there's one thing that nobody has noticed. I don't know if anybody here has noticed. Do you notice what Lamb of God are singing in the song?
No.
Well, you all know that when they walk into the prison yard, the prisoners are chanting the new Wild Stallion songs. And Keanu and Bill and Ted are like, oh, well, it's kind of dark, but that's cool. Lamb of God sings that song. That's what the Lamb of God song is.
That's amazing.
They turned the prison yard chant that Ed Solomon and Chris Matheson, the screenwriters, wrote, and they turned that into the song that scores the scene. So I would encourage you, if you really want to have some fun, watch the scene real quick and then listen to the Lamb of God song and realize that Lamb of God brought a Wild Stallions lyric to life.
Oh my God. That's amazing.
I mean,
awesome.
That's incredible.
That was one of my favorite parts of getting this soundtrack done. And I would be lying if I told you I didn't Google to see if people had figured it out yet. I don't think people have figured it out. So here I'm giving the news to you. Lamb of God is singing a Wild Stallions prison chant song from the future.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, there's a couple amazing on-camera performances that happen in the movie, and I think there's one that I'm sure everyone would really like to hear a little bit about. Let's start with the song that's called "That Which Binds Us Through Time," the chemical, physical, and biological nature of love, an exploration of the meaning of meaning, part 1.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tell us about how did this come to
be? All credit goes, of course, to Ed and Chris, the screenwriters, for writing that title.
Yeah.
although to be fair, part 1 is an ad lib that Alex Winter did on set.
That's amazing.
Ooh.
Yeah. So they got to the end of it, and all of a sudden he looks up and says, part 1. So,
and a lot of things in this movie are like that. They're the writers and the talent and the department heads like riffing and just like having fun with it. But yeah, that's a small example of it. So, okay, so we see that song title, and I think the first draft of the script I read just said, there's a bunch of instruments on stage, and they play something, and it's a total mess, and Deacon and Missy try their best, but it's impossible to dance to, and it kind of laid out, it was pretty clear what it was supposed to be. As clear as that is, I guess, but we all got it. We're like, okay, these are,
in my mind, what it was akin to Spinal Tap's Jazz Odyssey,
Yes.
where it's like they should just be making Spinal Tap music, but like they're just trying so hard. They're like, whatever. All right, let's give it a try. Free jazz, fine.
And it's very early in the film, and as silly as it is, it actually serves a really important story point, which is to show you where Wild Stallions are at in multiple ways. It shows you like that they're trying so hard to find the music that will unite the world that they're grasping at straws at this point. They're looking for inspiration in just by trying everything. They're throwing spaghetti at the wall. They're trying everything. So I think that's, as silly and as goofy as that moment is, it kind of makes it immediately clear where they're at as a band. They're just like, they're lost. They're trying everything. And then secondly, the point is to get a laugh, because it's really funny. It should be really funny. So, there's a third thing though that we talked about a lot, which is at the end of the second film, Bill and Ted practice their instruments and they get good at their instruments. And it's been 30 years since then. So we didn't want to treat them we did not want to treat it as if they were incompetent. Like, they're not incompetent. They're not bad at music. They lack direction. You know what I mean? Does that,
the difference make sense?
Absolutely.
I liked that with that song, like, they're playing all these crazy instruments, but you can still hear like a, coherent melody going through it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and striking that balance was, took a while. You can imagine prior to shooting, we had about 20 different versions mocked up by different artists. Actually, back up a sec. Before that, there was a huge round of emails where we all talked about what instruments should be on stage. And I gave the director a huge long email with links to see people performing all these different instruments and brief histories of the instrument and, what region it's from, its cultural significance, et cetera, et cetera. It's a very nerdy email to try to make it interesting. But at the end of the day, it's something that you got to shoot on camera. So we tried to stick with instruments that are fun to look at, fun to watch people play. There's plenty of instruments that are just not particularly inspiring or funny to watch people play. But the bagpipes are very funny to watch someone play. And the theremin is very funny to watch people play. And I think throat singing was written in from the very beginning. That was probably an Ed and Chris idea. So yeah, I feel like saying this, I'm realizing Alex got the short end of the stick. He had to do the throat singing, but then Keanu got to play bagpipes and theremin. Anyways, so I think I had like 20 different versions mocked up. I played them for the director and the producers. The group chose a favorite. I shipped stems of everyone's favorite track to the sound mixer for the day of the shoot. It was really, actually, one of my favorite stories of production is that Keanu and Alex were super eager to get all the performances at least correct, their physicality with the instruments they wanted to get correct. So first thing I did was I sent a multi-instrumentalist named Wendy Wang, who's a great songwriter, artist, producer in her own right. I asked her if she would go to New Orleans to be with Alex and Keanu to be their general music coach. So she handled that. She handled a lot of the guitar stuff for later when they play in the open mic night, the $2 taco night. But in addition to that, a producer called me and said, "Hey, Keanu wants to take bagpipe lessons. He really wants to get the bagpipes right." And I was like, "Yeah, okay."
So it sounds like a hilarious assignment. Like you have 24 hours to find a bagpipe teacher in New Orleans for Keanu Reeves. It's not your everyday thing. Anyways,
I got to tip my cap to a couple New Orleans music connects. One, his name is Jay Weigel, and one is another Jay Pennington. They were referred to me from some other friends in the business, and they're like, these guys know everybody in New Orleans. So I put the word out. I was like, hey, Jay and Jay, I need some options for bagpipe teachers. And lo and behold, I had a bunch of recommendations for bagpipe teachers. I kind of like gave them all a pre-interview over the phone because I didn't want to send. I wanted to make sure we were sending
I just wanted to take their temperature a little bit before I sent them into Alex and Keanu's dressing room.
Yep.
So so he took bagpipe lessons, trumpet lessons. They both took lots of guitar lessons. They just put work into it. It felt like the goofy musical equivalent
of John Wick doing his own stunts. Like he was super, super serious.
And so was Alex. Alex actually, I also found a throat singer to vocalize the throat singing you hear on camera, and set up a Zoom throat singing lesson for Alex Winter. So Alex Winter is also has been coached on throat singing. So those two dudes
are just
amazing.
Are amazing.
Yeah, they're
cool. Amazing.
They're the smartest, most dedicated, funniest, awesome people you could hope to work for. Anyways, that's a very long-winded way of saying that while the scene is funny, they took their approach to performing seriously, because we all agreed there was an important subtext to it, which is they are not buffoons, they are not incompetent, they are just a little bit lost. So, anyways.
That's great.
So you just mentioned this massive email chain that was, incredibly nerdy about all the different instruments and things that you wanted to get in there. I'd like to hear a little bit about when the daughters are traveling through history, and you have all these okay, now make a list. If we're going through instruments and have this exhaustive email, now what did the list of all of the artists of all time look like? And what were those conversations like?
There's a lot of emails. There's a lot of emails on that thread. Yeah.
I think most of the ideas that you see in the film were present in Ed and Chris's early drafts. And we talked about lots of different ways to approach it. There's I was kind of torn personally about it because the story that we're trying to tell about the daughters is that Billy and Thea are real crate digging music nerds. And if I'm thinking critically about the choices of Jimi Hendrix, Louis Armstrong, Mozart, it's that they're too obvious, right? And I hear that critique, but the other side of the coin is, at what point do you go so esoteric with your character choices that you've just completely left the realm of Bill and Ted, big, fun, goofy comedy? We don't want to make any viewer feel lost or like we're trying to show off, or we could have gotten really nerdy, and there are certainly really nerdy options proposed of musicians living and dead that would be really funny all over the world, across genres. all kinds of instruments. One of the things that we talked about was, one of the things, I know Ed and Chris have talked about this, so I feel like I'm allowed to talk about it. They talked about Elvis early on, and Elvis obviously is super fun, iconic. But as much as I love Elvis's voice and I love Elvis as a pop culture icon, I mean, you could certainly say Elvis is virtuosic in his vocal performance, but he was not a virtuosic instrumentalist, and it would have been an odd fit to put someone. I'm going to go to music hell for saying this, but I don't want to say that Elvis got by on charm or got by on his good looks, but because that's not what I'm saying. But that was like a big component of what makes Elvis Elvis. And that wasn't what we were selling in the final scene. We were selling a group of virtuosos coming together. So that was kind of like what I think we ended up sticking with. That we're like, if you're on this stage, everyone has to know that you are a virtuoso without question. And of course we're making a band. We can't have 5 guitar players. So we had to spread it out over different instruments.
It's funny. I think that the song from the beginning of the movie, I can't remember the full title of it at the moment now, but
that which binds you through time,
yes,
chemical, physical, and biological nature of love, an exploration of the meaning of meaning, part 1.
Part 1. You said that it had 3 functions, and I actually think it had a 4th. For me, it kind of gave the bona fides for the daughters to have, this real crate digging, music fan status, because I kind of felt like that they were going through all of this, being lost in the weeds with their dads of picking through all these different types of music, all these different things. And so I thought that kind of was a building block for the relationship as well, and kind of fed into what their character beats that you were trying to get to with, who they visited.
No, you're totally right. And, that was actually written explicitly into the script. It said Billy and Thea look on from the side of the dance floor, and they appear to be the only people who understand the music. So that was intended from Ed and Chris from the very beginning. Astute of you to pick that up where I had forgotten it. But yeah, it does draw a bond between them, and right after, when they tell their dads, or in the garage when they tell their dads, forget what Pop said, that song was most luminous. Yeah, I mean, the friendship between fathers and daughters is really, really lovely. I mean, it's so wholesome and cheerful and supportive. Yeah, it's great. Very good point. But there's one last thing I want to say about the That Which Binds Us Through Time, though, which is, so we had 20 different mock-ups made. They're all great. Director picks his favorite. We prep it for the shoot date. Alex and Keanu go all out learning the instruments. The prop master does a great job getting all the props there, everything looking just the way it should. And and then 24 hours before we shoot it, I get word they're like, Alex and Keanu are not going to use the pre-recorded song to mime along to. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, they want to do their own thing. They're like, trust us.
We got this. And I was like, oh no.
Nightmare.
Yeah.
But to be honest, you all know what it's like to put in a bunch of work and then have something end up on the cutting room floor. I think my initial reaction to it was a purely selfish, like, oh, we put so much work into it, it's going away. In hindsight, not even in hindsight, in immediate hindsight, as soon as the dailies came in, we were just like, oh,
that was clearly the right choice.
Because Alex and Keanu just did their own thing. They're funny as hell. And they weren't constrained to a tempo or like any particular sequence. We knew that Alex was going to start with throat singing and Keanu was going to start on theremin. But after that, it's kind of just like a free for all. And so what they did is just much, much funnier than it would have been if they had tried to mime along to a pre-recorded track. And then, the challenge, as it is on every film, is up to music department to fix it in post. So we cut the scene together, and then we made a new song to fit.
Wow.
Well, speaking of challenges, the final song in the movie is supposed to be a song that is like so amazing that it saves the world and unites the world, saves reality. I was almost expecting like to not even hear the song because it's like that's such an ambitious thing to then have the song play in the movie. So I was like, I was excited when they did play it, and the way it comes together is really cool. And I was wondering, how did you go about creating this song that is supposed to be like the greatest song of all time?
Yeah. You can imagine my pulse rate as I read those pages. I'm like, oh, that's great. Oh, we're going to hear the song. Okay. And believe me, it dawned on me that the challenge that Bill and Ted face in the movie is the challenge that the music department faces in real life. And the fact that it took so long to get the song done. I mean, it was comical towards the end. We were just like, where is the song? Where is the song? And I'm like emailing the director back. I don't know how to tell you this. I don't have the song. It was a very life imitates art process. But so
just like the wedding song, we started with a ton of pre-recorded ideas. We kind of chopped up the work. I had some artists do full-length versions. First of all, there's an Excel spreadsheet on my computer which would make you all die of laughter. How nerdy it is, because the rows are the rows are the vertical ones. Yeah, the rows are every character that's on screen, from Kid Cudi to Chief Logan, who in the film, I think he ends up playing a clarinet. I think, yeah. But in the script, I think he's playing something else. Anyways, we have Jesus playing a cowbell. We have people at Wrigley Field playing recorders and dulcimers. So all those people have their own row in my spreadsheet, right?
And then my columns are 15-second intervals.
Oh my God.
And they're listed like what all those people are doing every 15 seconds.
Oh my gosh.
As best I can tell it from the way it's scripted. And the way I ballparked it from the script was that it was going to time out to be 5 minutes and 45 seconds long. So that's for 23. So that's 23 columns of 23 15-second columns. That was the only way I could wrap my head around it. Like, how are we going to plan a piece of music that hits all these beats for all these people that are on screen? So I planned it out very meticulously. I had a few artists take a stab at basically musically recreating my spreadsheet. Like, this is what's going to happen at 3 minutes and 30 seconds. We need to hear a mandolin. So, and one of those actually turned out really well, and was very close to being the song that we used as playback on the shoot day. Meanwhile, we made a decision very early on that the song was not going to have lyrics for the very simple reason that if you're uniting people throughout space and time and geography, that you probably couldn't rely on a single contemporary language to do that. So,
as you all know, doing a lyricless vocal chant can very easily turn into a Honda commercial. And I completely respect any online criticism that says the song that saves the universe sounds like a commercial, because we're in that place
where, yeah, people chanting along in a major key, woes and yas, has a certain flavor to it. Totally get that. But we didn't see a much better alternative, take your pick of any of the songs that end with a great na 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 outro. It still kind of works. Like, you might go on Reddit and say you hate it, but it still works. Anyway, so we knew it was going to have a big lyricless hook at the end. And, we talked about a lot of things. We were like, picture a giant football stadium all chanting together. Like, that's the best that we could picture the closest thing we could picture. And right now right now that song is Seven Nation Army, but we're like, okay, in no way, shape or form is this song ripping off Seven Nation Army. But, that's what people like to do, that they like to sing in unison, big, hooky, simple melodies. Ours is major key, obviously. Anyways, we're getting way in the weeds, but, so that part had to be good. So I had a whole bunch of people just demo 30-second, 60-second football stadium chants. Like, what would it sound like? Just don't try to conceptualize the whole 8-minute, really complicated piece. Just try to come up with some great hooks that you could sing in a football stadium. So we kind of attacked it from both sides. What would the whole thing sound like? And what would the final hook sound like? And we knew that we were going to save the guitar solo as a final overdub to match whatever Keanu and Alex did. So the guitar solo itself, we kind of, pushed it until later. Ultimately, and this is where life really started to imitate art, there was a song that was approved by the director to shoot to.
Oh, keep in mind, I should probably tell you this. At this point in 2019, my wife is 9 months pregnant. And
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And it's like 24 hours before we're shooting the final scene with 1 million extras and all the, the most expensive week of shooting. I think we shot the final sequence in 4 days. And we have an approved song for playback. I've shipped stems to the music editor and the on-set sound tech. And the last second, it gets vetoed by another producer. And can you imagine trying to get
20 producers to all agree that one song is the song that saves the universe? It's never going to happen. You can't get 3 people to agree on their favorite song.
Nope.
much less 20.
The song that we were going to use for playback gets vetoed, and we go into that final week of shooting with no song. And now I'm really feeling like Bill and Ted. They're like, where's the song, guys? We have no song. So they shot the sequence to a click track, and it turned out that what Dean was able to capture on set turned out great. Everyone did a great job miming. One of the things that I insisted upon was that we cast a real professional drummer to play Grom. And you can't do that scene. You can't do the movie without a professional drummer playing Grom. You can't say, let's go get the greatest drummer who ever lived and then cut to a person who clearly does not play the drums. So I'm very happy. I can't say enough about Patty Ann Miller. She was great in the film, and she's just a lovely human being. Anyway, so it helps a lot that we have a real drummer playing to a click track and really holding it down for the band. The band does their thing. They have a great time shooting it. Kid Cudi is there being awesome. And then the piece starts to come together in post. They start cutting the scene together. And what me and the music editor decided was, well, let's take a look at the best, the close but not quite songs from our huge batch of stuff that was done prior to shooting. Let's revisit those and see if there's anything that we can mine and cut together. And what we ended up doing, and I say what the music editor ended up doing, was taking one of those full-length mock-ups, like a 6, 7, 8 minute mock-up, using that as kind of a skeleton, and then cutting in multiple of our favorite football stadium chants into it, shifting the keys, shifting the tempo, making disparate pieces of music play together. And we called that the Frankenstein. And that more or less, that continued. Once the Frankenstein was built and director and producers heard it, and they're like, oh, you know what? I know that it's weird and awkward and clumsy and, rough around the edges, but it's actually kind of interesting. I wish I could say that I planned this and it was some evil genius move, but if you're going to try to make something kind of feel sloppy and feel like it was born out of a jam session between different people who'd never played together before, it's kind of a great way to do it, is to just take 10 different ideas from 10 different people and then cut them together and kind of sample them and pitch them and time them and make them work together. It
seems kind of smart now that I'm saying it. The benefit of hindsight. Anyways, regardless, that's what we did.
All part of the plan.
We took a bunch of ideas and, through the modern miracles of Pro Tools, Elastic Audio, Serato Pitch and Time, we made them play together. And
we're like, okay, this is interesting, but it's like really ugly. If I'm being honest, the first version didn't really rock. It was kind of pop. Felt much more like a straight up Honda commercial. And we were like, okay, we need to make this rock. And I called this guy who I had just connected on Facebook. He's a fantastic guitar player. His name's Joshua Ray Gooch. At the moment, I know this sounds completely random, but at the moment, his primary gig is being Shania Twain's guitar player. He's just amazing. So I knew him as he was Shania Twain's guitar player. I knew that he played these jazz gigs on the weekend, and when he plays jazz, he sounds a lot like John Scofield, who happens to be one of my favorite jazz guitar players. And so I was actually following him because of how much I loved his jazz playing. But I knew he played rock and Americana and country in the Shania setting. And then one day he posted a Facebook story of him and some friends playing in like their prog metal, like just for fun side project. And I was like, oh my God, that is Wild Stallions. Anyways, I sent him a message. I was like, hey man, can we meet up and just talk about this film I'm working on? He came over to my house. We hit it off. Sweet guy. And, I laid it on him. I was like, hey man, I'm doing Bill and Ted and we needed the song that saves the universe. And we have this weird Frankenstein that just doesn't quite rock. And it's kind of like messy. And it's like, you can see where the stitches are between the body parts. And, I was like, is there any chance that you would like take a crack at re-recording this in a coherent rock band style that more closely adheres to what we see on camera? And I have no idea why I trusted him, and I have no idea why he trusted me, but he was like, yeah, all right, yeah, let's do it. So I get him to sign the NDA and all the legal stuff. And then I hand him a hard drive with the movie on it. And and I think I gave him a Pro Tools session of the Frankenstein. The Frankenstein at that point was, probably 32 tracks, super messy. If you were to solo any of those tracks, they sound like absolute garbage because they're elastic audio, they're stretched in time to death. So anyways, he took the Frankenstein Pro Tools session, and he and his musical partner, a guy named Corey Churko, who is Shania's other guitar player. And also, Corey Churko has some amazing rock cred though. He's played in Snake Pit with Slash.
Nice.
Whatever I can say about their resumes doesn't fully do them justice as musicians. They're amazing musicians and great producers and engineers as well. So Joshua and Corey take the Frankenstein session. They have the movie to look at, and they re-record the whole damn thing. And they make it sound like a real band playing. And they get really, really, really granular. Like if you see Jimi Hendrix's hand slide down the neck, then they played the fret buzz. And, if someone's tuning up or if someone's switching on an amp, everything, they hit everything. They were like, a week later, they called me back. They're like, hey dude, it's done. We really love to show it to you. And I was like, yeah, I would really love to see it. And again, I don't know why I trusted him that much. I didn't even hear it. I was like, okay, I'm going to set up a meeting. You, me, the director, picture editors, and one of the main producers, a guy named Scott Krupp, who produced the first two films as well. We all meet up at editorial. I haven't heard a note of what they did. I just felt good about it. I can't tell you why.
Wow.
And we go in. They give the picture editor their stereo file. He drops it. He drops into the edit. We all sit back on the couch. They hit play, and like, it was great. It was just immediately great. But at this point, we're like 25% of the way through the process, and
your podcast would need to be like 7 hours long.
Yeah.
But
suffice it to say, when they handed in their first draft of re-recording Frankenstein, the picture edit was not locked, and the picture edit would change 100 times after that. So I didn't want to be honest, I didn't want to burn them out by having them try to chase the picture edit and constantly reconform and re-record and remix and this and that. So I was like, okay, you guys take a deep breath because you put in a tremendous amount of work. We're just going to make music. We're going to take your stereo file and we're going to make music edits to keep it synced with picture. The picture edit's going to keep changing, and we're just going to make little trims and tweaks to your stereo file. And when picture is locked, then we'll call you back. And so that's what we did. We went through tons and tons of picture edits. The end of the film was rethought and redone so many times. There's so many different ideas about ways to end the film. I can't even tell you. Just there was a lot of different ways considered to how we could end the film before we landed on what you see. And once we had picture lock, we called Joshua and Corey back and we're like, hey guys, good news. Picture's locked. You remember that beautiful thing you did? Well, we've turned it back into a mess. It sounds like a complete train wreck all over again. So they had to reconform their multi-track session. And also, amazingly, the first guitar solo was 60 seconds long,
which is already twice as long as any guitar solo in any pop song. I mean, even an indulgent 80s guitar solo is only about 35 seconds long. And our first guitar solo was 60 seconds long. And that's what Josh and Corey first did. And then when picture locked, they handed over a cut that needed a 90-second guitar solo. And I was just like, I mean, we were really indulging ourselves with that one.
But so they had to go back, they had to reconform, they had to turn a 60-second solo into a 90-second solo. And at that point, too, once we had picture lock, I called Christian Scott, who was the trumpet player who had played Louis Armstrong's horn parts earlier in the film. And I was like, Christian, we need you one last time. We need you to do Louis' horn parts for the end of the film. Now that we have the song finished that saves the world. And I also called back the musician who played Jimmy earlier in the film, a guy named Ray Swen. So Ray Swen came back, did overdubs. Christian Scott did his trumpet overdubs. There's some Mark Isham, our composer, who's also a trumpet player. There's some Mark Isham overdubs in there. Who else? All the recorders and woodwinds and weird stuff is a multi-instrumentalist named Jesse McGinty. But crucially, I haven't said their name yet, but they're super crucial to this whole process. A company called Heavy Duty Music had provided a lot of the custom, the original hooks that made up the original Frankenstein. And so they were already authors of most of the song. And, for your listeners who don't know, Heavy Duty Music is a music production house started by a world famous artist, writer, producer. I talked to Ariel way like a year ago, like before we started shooting, because I was like, if somebody can write a song that saves the universe, I think it might be him or his people. And sure enough, that's what ended up happening. We, the piece is largely hooks and melodic ideas that came from Heavy Duty Music. But they're also a production house. They can fully produce a track as well. So since they were already an author of the song, we brought them back in for final overdubs as well. And it's like, it was really like an all hands on deck thing. Like everyone from our Louis to our Jimmy to our authors at Heavy Duty, to our composer Mark Isham, like everybody came in and contributed final overdubs once we have picture lock. And so there's a lot of ideas happening in that, and it's tricky because, as you know, because you've seen the film, for about half of that song, it's not really working as a song. It's kind of playing as score. It has to score the moment between Bill and Ted and Joe and Elizabeth in the phone booth. It has to be like this sweet. It's really acting as score in that moment. And it also has to score their takeoff when the phone booth becomes infinite. It has to score the moment when the phone booth arrives back on stage. It has to punch up when they give their daughters high fives. Obviously, it has to transition into this epic guitar solo. It has to do a lot of custom things, and as much as possible, it has to be somewhat believable. Like if you see Louis playing a trumpet, you have to hear Louis playing a riff. So shoehorning all of these creative needs into one piece of music just took a lot of effort. Yeah, man. Well, I think that turned out. I think it turned out really great. The ending is super fun.
Yeah,
yeah. I'm glad that you think that. I think that obviously makes me happy and relieved. It's one of those things. It's like it can't possibly make everyone happy, and it can't possibly live up to everyone's expectations for what a great song is, because we all have genres we prefer. We all have styles we prefer. But the best we could hope for is that it sold you on the mood, and it helped tell the story. What's really important, I mean, the single most important thing is that when Bill and Ted arrive back on stage, they see what their daughters have done, and they realize, and it really fully dawns on them and dawns on everyone that this was the point. The point was for them to empower and believe in their daughters, and then immediately after they swap places, the daughters believe in and empower their fathers by giving them their guitars and having them play a guitar solo. So just telling that story and having the music be good enough and powerful enough, and help. We're just trying to get people caught up in those feelings.
And certainly with a song with no lyrics that plays for almost 8 minutes, it's not going to be a 2.5 minute TikTok banger. It's going to be something else. It's much more a piece of score than anything else.
Well, Jonathan, it's been great talking to you, and it was so awesome to have you on the podcast tonight, man.
It's very much my pleasure.
Yeah, if people want to, check out the Bill and Ted Face the Music soundtrack, I'm pretty sure it's up on Spotify, iTunes, everywhere.
Yeah, and if you want a bonus podcast where we just talk about really nerdy spreadsheets, we can also do that. Yes, because I want to hear more about that. But thank you so much.
Right?
Yeah, that's right.
It's a perfect spin-off.
Yeah,
it's a great spin-off. Yeah.
You guys, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for having me. I'm glad that you enjoyed the movie. I'm glad that you liked the song at the end of the film, especially. It's just a huge sigh of relief that we made it. And the soundtrack, the songs don't get to play for an awfully long time in the film. A lot of the songs that are on the soundtrack are very brief and very quiet in the film. I hope you and all of our fellow music lovers dig into the soundtrack, because the artists really brought it. The artists who we asked to contribute original music, they made some amazing recordings for this soundtrack. So I hope that it's my small wish that the soundtrack has a life of its own as a standalone thing. Yeah, you have any word on if they're going to be putting out a vinyl version of that one?
I can confirm we are doing vinyl.
Yes.
Nice. You just made Justin so
that's all I wanted to do.
That's breaking news on your podcast. I haven't told anybody else that yet.
Fantastic.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Is there anywhere that people can check you out online or follow your work?
I've gotten very political on Twitter, so you're gonna have to put up with a lot of political rants on Twitter. But I enjoy interacting with people about music, film, TV on Twitter and Instagram. I'm so easy to find. I don't have a blue check mark, but you can find me.
Awesome. Well, thanks, John. Thanks for being here tonight. That was great.
My pleasure.
Well, we just wanted to say thank you one more time to Jonathan Leahy for being here. That was a great interview. Follow him on Twitter and Instagram, like he said. And, now that you guys are back, why don't you take a long, stupid walk with me as I introduce what we're doing next? You know what? It's just barely September, right? So there's still a little bit time left in summer, okay? And it's been so hot, you guys. It's been so hot here in LA. What do you like to do when it gets hot? You might want to go for a swim. What do you do when you go for a swim? Well, you might just splash around in the water a little bit. We're talking about Splash next week. Oh, we're doing a twofer.
Oh my God, that was a long walk off a long pier.
I said a long, stupid walk. I don't know if you remember me saying that mere moments
But at the end,
ago.
there was a splash. So yes,
Yeah.
we're talking about the Tom Hanks mermaid comedy Splash.
Oh boy.
I was really hoping that you were going to start dipping into the venerable Swim Fan series.
Hey, that could happen.
Justin, were you with me that time where we were at Bigfoot Lounge and the guy from Swim Fan was there and we made our trivia team name Swim Fan Fans?
I think
got up and left.
I think I was.
How dare you?
And I felt terrible.
Isn't that the guy for Bring It On?
I believe.
I think it's the same guy.
I can't believe you did that to him.
It was not of ill intent, but
I'm just impressed that you could recognize the guy from Swim Fan.
I certainly didn't. I believe it was former podcast guest Nick Snow.
Yeah, this was multiple years ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're talking Splash next week. Bring your flippers, your floaties, whatever you need.
And your gills,
goggles, anything.
And your buddy's VHS collection.
That's right. We'll see you guys next week. We're talking Splash. Splash.